The year was 2347. Humanity had spread across 12 star systems. They built colonies on distant worlds. They mined asteroids for precious metals. They created stations that floated among the stars like cities in the void. But to the rest of the galaxy, humans were still children. A young species. Newcomers who had only discovered faster than light travel. 200 years ago, the hegemony of United Worlds had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. 47 species worked together under one banner. They called it cooperation. They called it peace. But everyone knew the truth. The hegemony was built on fear and tribute. Every new species that reached the stars had to pay resources, ships, sometimes people. The hegemony called it the price of protection. Pay tribute, and you would be safe. Refuse, and you would learn why no one had ever refused before. Ambassador Una stood in the greeting hall of Orbital Station Prometheus. She was 53 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and calm eyes that had seen both war and peace. Before she became a diplomat, she flew combat ships. She knew what it meant to face death. She knew what it meant to survive. Behind her stood Admiral Tay and General Kong. Tay was tall and thin, with a sharp mind that had won battles before they even started. Kong was shorter, but built like stone, a man who had led soldiers through impossible situations and brought them home alive. The doors opened. The hegemony envoy entered. It was a Velthary. The Velthary were the leaders of the hegemony, the oldest and most powerful of the 47 species. This one stood nearly 3 meters tall. Its body was covered in dark shells, like armor made of night. 4 arms folded across its chest. Its eyes, dozens of them, glittered like black jewels. 2 guards walked beside it. They were from different species. One looked like a walking bear with scales. The other seemed to be made of living crystal. Both carried weapons that could kill everyone in the room in seconds. The Velthary stopped in front of Una. It did not bow. It did not greet her. Why would it? To the hegemony, humans were nothing. Insects who had somehow learned to build ships. "I am Envoy Krath of the hegemony," it said. Its voice clicked and buzzed, translated by the device on its chest. "I bring the terms of your tribute." Una nodded once. "We are listening." Krath made a sound that might have been amusement. "You will provide 30% of your mineral output from all 12 systems. You will give us 20 of your most advanced warships. And you will send 1,000 of your people to our research stations for study." The room went cold. Admiral Tay's hands became fists at his sides. General Kong's jaw tightened. But Una did not move. Her face showed nothing. "Study," she repeated. "You want our people for study. Your biology is interesting," Krath said, as if discussing the weather. "Your ability to survive in different environments. Your strange emotions. Our scientists wish to understand these things. And what happens to our people after this study?" Krath's many eyes blinked. "That is not your concern." Una felt something cold settle in her chest. She had read the reports. She knew what happened to species that sent their people to hegemony research stations. They were cut apart, tested, broken into pieces to satisfy alien curiosity. None of them ever came home. "And if we refuse?" she asked. Krath made that clicking sound again. Behind him, his guards shifted their weapons slightly. "No species refuses," Krath said. "You are one species. We are 47. You have 800 ships. We have millions. This is not a negotiation, human. This is a notification. You will pay tribute, or you will be destroyed. It is simple." Una looked at the creature in front of her. 10,000 years of power. 10,000 years of crushing anyone who stood against them. The hegemony had broken species before humans had even discovered fire. They were ancient. They were mighty. They believed they were gods. But Yuna remembered her grandmother's stories. Stories of her homeland, a small country that had faced empires again and again. Invasions from the north, occupation from the east, wars that burned cities to ash. And yet, her people had survived. They had endured. They had never stopped fighting for their freedom. Humanity was the same. They had survived ice ages and plagues, world wars and nuclear threats. They had poisoned their own planet and still found a way to heal it. They had looked at the void of space and said, "We will cross it." They had not come this far to kneel. Yuna looked at Admiral Tay. He met her eyes. A single nod. General Kong did the same. "Envoy Kraft," Yuna said, her voice steady as stone. "I thank you for delivering your terms. Now let me deliver ours." Kraft's eyes flickered with something like confusion. This was not how tribute species behaved. "Humanity will not pay tribute," Yuna continued. "Not 30%. Not 3%. Nothing. Our ships belong to us. Our resources belong to us. And our people will never be sent to your laboratories." The clicking stopped. The room became very quiet. "You refuse?" Kraft said slowly, as if he had never spoken those words before. "We refuse. You understand what this means? We will send our fleets. We will burn your colonies. We will break your species until nothing remains but dust and memory." Yuna stepped forward. She was so much smaller than the Valkyrie. A human woman facing a monster from the stars. But she did not look small. She looked like a wall. "Then come," she said softly. "Send your fleets. Send your millions. We will be waiting. And when your ships burn and your soldiers fall, when your empire bleeds from wounds that will never heal, remember this moment. Remember that you were warned." Kraft stared at her. For the first time in his long life, he did not know what to say. "We have faced extinction before," Yuna said. "We have stood at the edge of death and refused to fall. Your hegemony is old. Your power is vast. But we are human. We do not bow. We do not break. And we never, ever give up." She stepped back. "Leave our station. Go back to your masters. Tell them what we said. And tell them to prepare." Kraft stood frozen for a long moment. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away. His guards followed. The doors closed behind him. Admiral Tay let out a slow breath. "Well, that is done. It is only beginning," Yuna said. She turned to face them both. "How long until they send their fleet?" 2 weeks, Tay replied. "Maybe less. Then we have 2 weeks to prepare for war." Yuna looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the hegemony was already moving. Ships were being loaded. Soldiers were being armed. An empire of 47 species was about to fall upon humanity like a hammer upon glass. But glass could cut. And humanity had been forged in much hotter fires than this. "Send the word to all colonies," Yuna said. "Activate all defense protocols. Wake up every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. The hegemony thinks we are weak. They think we will crumble." She turned back to face them. "Let us show them how wrong they are." The hegemony fleet arrived in 11 days. 300 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. They came in perfect formation, a wall of metal and fire that blocked out the stars. The flagship was a Valkyrie Dominator. It was 5 kilometers long, covered in weapons that could crack planets. Its name translated to something like "final word," because when this ship spoke, civilizations ended. Commander Hannah watched them come. She stood on the bridge of the destroyer Indomitable, stationed near Jupiter's moon, Europa. Her patrol group was small. 12 ships. 12 crews of brave men and women who had volunteered to guard the outer system. 12 ships against 300. Hana was 41 years old. She had served in the fleet for 20 years. She had fought pirates and put down rebellions. She had seen friends die and enemies surrender. But she had never faced anything like this. "Commander," her second officer said. His name was Jay. He was young, barely 30, with fear in his eyes that he was trying hard to hide. "Earth Command is on the line." Admiral Tay's voice came through the speakers. It was calm, steady. "Commander Hana, the enemy fleet will reach Earth in approximately 6 hours. We need time to finish our preparations." "How much time?" Hana asked. "As much as you can give us." Hana closed her eyes. She understood what he was asking. He was asking her to die. "Understood, Admiral. Commander ... Tay paused. "The sacrifice you make today will not be forgotten. Your names will be remembered forever." "With respect, Admiral," Hana said, "we are not planning to die. We are planning to fight. If we happen to survive, that would be nice too." She could hear the small smile in Tay's voice. "Good luck, Commander. Earth is counting on you." The line went dead. Hana turned to face her bridge crew. They were scared. Of course they were scared. Only fools felt no fear before battle. But they were also ready. She could see it in their eyes. "You all heard the Admiral," she said. 300 ships. 12 of us. The math is bad. I will not lie to you. Many of us will not see tomorrow. Maybe none of us will." She paused, looking at each face in turn. "But every minute we hold them here is a minute Earth uses to prepare. Every ship we destroy is one less ship that will threaten our families, our children, our home. We are the first wall. When we fall, there will be others behind us, and others behind them, until the hegemony understands that humanity does not break." She straightened her shoulders. "All ships follow my lead? We are going to use Europa as cover. The ice geysers will confuse their sensors. We hit them fast, we hit them hard, and we dissipate. Pair before they can respond. We are not trying to win today. We are trying to make them bleed." The channel filled with acknowledgments. 12 ships, 3,000 souls, ready to face the impossible. The battle began an hour later. The hegemony fleet moved toward Earth like a slow wave of death. They did not rush. Why would they? They were 300 ships strong. They had crushed rebellions before the humans even had writing. This was not a battle to them. It was an execution. They did not expect the attack. Hana's ships burst from the ice clouds of Europa like ghosts. They fired everything they had at the nearest enemy vessels. Missiles streaked through the void. Energy beams cut through shields. 3 hegemony ships died before they even knew. They were under attack. Then chaos erupted. The hegemony fleet broke formation, trying to find the tiny human ships that had hurt them. But Europa's geysers shot columns of ice into space, creating clouds of frozen particles that blinded sensors and blocked weapons. Hana used every trick she knew. Her ships would fire, then run. They would hide in the ice clouds, then strike again from a different angle. They were faster than the enemy, smaller, harder to hit. 4 more kills, Jay reported, his voice tight with adrenaline. No, 5. They are getting angry. Hana watched her screen. The hegemony was adapting. They were spreading out, trying to surround her small fleet. Soon there would be nowhere left to hide. All ships prepare for Phase 2, she ordered. We make them chase us toward the asteroid belt. They ran. The hegemony followed. For 6 hours, Hana's 12 ships led the enemy on a hunt through the outer system. They used asteroids as cover. They launched decoys to confuse sensors. They set traps with mines that had been hidden months ago. One by one, enemy ships fell. 10, 20, 30 . But Hana's fleet fell 2 . The destroyer Starfall was the first to die, caught in a crossfire between 2 cruisers. A frigate Braveheart followed, rammed by a ship 3 times its size. Others fell to concentrated fire, to lucky shots, to simple bad luck. By the 5th hour, only 3 human ships remained. Hana's Indomitable was badly damaged. Half her weapons were gone. Her engines were failing. Fire burned in 3 sections. Dead crew members lay in corridors that no one had time to clear, but they had killed 47 enemy ships. "Commander," Jay said weakly. He was bleeding from a wound on his head. "The flagship. It is moving toward us." Hana looked at her screen. The Dominator, the 5-kilometer monster that led the hegemony fleet, was coming straight for them. Its captain had decided to end this personally. The other ships? Hana asked. "Gone. We are the last." Hana nodded slowly. She had always known it would end this way. 6 hours. They had bought Earth 6 hours. It would have to be enough. "Open a channel to Earth," she said. The connection took a moment. Then Admiral Tay's voice filled the bridge. "Commander Hana, we have been watching. What you have done today, ... There are no words." "We held them for 6 hours," Hana said. "Use the time well." "We will. I promise." Hana looked at her crew. At Jay, who had followed her into hell without question. At the others who still stood at their posts, despite wounds and exhaustion and fear. "It has been an honor," she said to them. "To serve with you. To fight beside you. To die with you." She turned back to the screen. The Dominator was close now. So close she could see its weapons charging. "All remaining power to engines," she ordered. "Set a collision course for the flagship's engine section." Jay's eyes widened. "Commander, if we are going to die," Hana said, "we are going to make it count." The Indomitable screamed forward. The Dominator fired, but Hana's ship was already too close. Beams tore through her hull. Explosions ripped through her corridors. But she did not stop. At the last moment, Hana hit the emergency release on her command chair. The escape pod shot away from the doomed ship. Behind her, the Indomitable struck the Dominator's engine array at full speed. The explosion was beautiful. A flower of fire that bloomed in the darkness of space. When it faded, the great flagship was crippled. Its engines were destroyed. It would not reach Earth for weeks. Hana floated in her escape pod, watching the burning wreckage. She did not know if anyone would find her. She did not know if she would live or die. But she smiled. 6 hours. 47 ships. And a crippled flagship. Not bad for 12 destroyers. Somewhere far away. Earth was preparing for war. And thanks to Commander Hana and her brave crew, they would be ready. The hegemony fleet regrouped. Their flagship was crippled, drifting near Jupiter with broken engines. But they still had 250 warships. More than enough to destroy one small planet. The fleet commander was a Velthari named Droth. He had served the hegemony for 300 years. He had broken 12 species. He had burned worlds and shattered civilizations. The loss at Europa was annoying, but nothing more. "These humans," he said to his officers, "are like insects that bite before they are crushed. They have caused us pain, yes, but pain means nothing. When we reach their world, we will teach them the true meaning of suffering." His fleet moved toward Earth, slower now, more careful. They would not be surprised again. On Earth, Admiral Tay watched them come. He stood in the command center of Orbital Station Aegis, the heart of Earth's defense network. Screens covered every wall, showing the positions of every ship, every weapon, every soldier in the system, Ambassador Yuna stood beside him. She had refused to evacuate to the underground bunkers. If Earth fell, she said, she would fall with it. 250 ships, Tay said quietly. Still too many. You have been preparing for this day for 50 years, Yuna replied. You always said you had something special planned. Tay's lips curved into a small smile. Protocol resolve. Yes, it is special, but it has never been tested. Until today, we hoped we would never need it. Lieutenant Day approached them. He was young, only 25, but his eyes were sharp and his mind was faster than most computers. Tay had noticed him years ago and pulled him into strategic command. Admiral, Day said, the enemy fleet will reach firing range in 4 hours. All systems are ready. And our hidden assets? Active and waiting. 47 weapons platforms in the asteroid belt. 32 disguised mining stations with heavy missiles. And the lunar batteries are charged. Yuna raised an eyebrow. Lunar batteries? We built them into the dark side of the moon, Tay explained. 3 massive rail cannons. Each one can fire a slug the size of a building at a significant fraction of light speed. The enemy does not know they exist. Yuna shook her head slowly. You really have been preparing for this. Humans have a saying, Tay replied. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I have spent my life preparing for the worst. 4 hours passed like 4 years. The hegemony fleet entered the inner solar system. They passed Mars. They crossed the asteroid belt. They moved in perfect formation, confident in their power. Commander Droth stood on his bridge, watching Earth grow larger on his screens. Such a small world. Blue and green and white. Beautiful in its way. Soon it would be black and red, burning under his guns. Begin the attack, he ordered. His fleet surged forward, and the trap closed. It started in the asteroid belt. Rocks that had floated peacefully for millions of years suddenly opened fire. Missiles screamed out of hidden tubes. Energy beams lanced through the darkness. 20 hegemony ships died in the first 30 seconds. Droth stared at his screen in disbelief. What is this? Where did those weapons come from? Unknown, Commander. They are not on any of our intelligence reports. More weapons activated. Mining stations that had seemed harmless revealed massive cannons hidden in their hulls. Small satellites opened like flowers, releasing swarms of attack drones. The hegemony fleet broke into chaos. All ships returned fire. Droth screamed, destroy those platforms. But there were too many. For every weapon they destroyed, 2 more activated. The humans had spent 50 years hiding death in the darkness between planets. Every asteroid could be a bomb. Every satellite could be a gun. The fleet pushed through. They lost 30 more ships, then 40, then 50. But they kept coming. They were the hegemony. They did not retreat. Then they reached the moon. Lieutenant Day watched his screen carefully. Lunar batteries are locked on target. Waiting for your order, Admiral. Tay's eyes were cold. Fire. The moon rotated. 3 massive cannons, each one longer than a starship, emerged from the gray surface. They had been built in secret over 2 decades. Thousands of workers had lived and died on the moon to create them. Now, finally, they would serve their purpose. The first shot was invisible. A slug of solid metal, accelerated to incredible speed, crossed the distance between the moon and the hegemony fleet in seconds. It struck a cruiser and kept going, punching through 3 ships before finally stopping. The second and third shots followed. In 30 seconds. The lunar batteries destroyed 17 warships. Droth's face went pale. Impossible. This is impossible. But it was happening. On orbital station Aegis, Yuna watched the battle unfold. Ships were dying by the dozen. The hegemony formation was collapsing. For the first time in 10,000 years, a punitive fleet was losing. "They are retreating," Day reported, his voice filled with wonder. "The remaining ships are retreating." Tay nodded slowly. "How many did we destroy?" 177 confirmed kills. The rest are fleeing toward the outer system. Yuna let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. "We won?" "We won this battle," Tay corrected. "The war is just beginning. The hegemony has millions of ships. They will send more, many more. But today they learned something." Yuna walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "They learned that we are not helpless. We are not prey waiting to be eaten. We are dangerous." "They will come back with a larger fleet," Tay said. 10 times this size. 100 times. Then we will prepare. We will build more weapons. Find more allies. Make the cost of attacking us so high that even the hegemony will hesitate. Tay considered this. There are other species in the galaxy who hate the hegemony. Species who were forced to pay tribute, just like they wanted us to. If we could reach them, then maybe we would not have to fight alone. Yuna turned back to face him. "Send our fastest ships. Make contact with every species that might be willing to listen. Tell them what happened here today. Tell them that the hegemony can be hurt, that they can be beaten." Lieutenant Day stepped forward. "Ambassador, that could take months, years. Then we start now." Yuna's eyes were bright with something that might have been hope. "Today we proved that humanity will not bow. Tomorrow we will prove that we are not the only ones who refuse to kneel." Across the system, rescue ships were already searching for survivors. They found Commander Hana drifting near Jupiter in her escape pod, half frozen but alive. She would recover. She would fight again. The message was spreading. Humanity had faced the might of the hegemony and survived. More than survived. They had one dot in the halls of the hegemony. The 47 species were watching. Some were angry. Some were afraid. And some, quietly, secretly, were beginning to hope that the galaxy was changing, and humanity was leading the way. The news spread across. The galaxy like fire through dry grass. The humans had one dot at first. No one believed it. The hegemony controlled all communication networks. They tried to suppress the story, to call it lies and propaganda. But truth has a way of escaping. Traders whispered it in space stations. Smugglers carried recordings of the battle. Scientists analyzed the debris fields and confirmed what everyone feared to believe. A tribute species had defeated a hegemony fleet. On the hegemony homeworld, the Velthari Archon sat in his throne and listened to the reports. He was ancient, over 2,000 years old, his shell cracked and gray with age. He had ruled the hegemony for 8 centuries. He had never known failure. How? He asked, his voice like grinding stones. "How did insects destroy our ships?" The admirals had no answer. "We will send another fleet," the Archon decided. "A larger one, 10 times the size. We will burn their worlds to ash. We will capture their leaders and execute them publicly. We will make an example so terrible that no species will ever dare to resist again." But there was a problem. The hegemony was vast, but it was not infinite. Their ships were spread across 1,000 systems, keeping order, collecting tribute, crushing any sign of rebellion. Pulling together a fleet 10 times larger than the first would take time. It would leave other areas unguarded, and now, for the first time, the other species were watching. Admiral Tay did not wait for the enemy to regroup. 3 weeks after the Battle of Sol, he launched Operation Echo. It was simple in concept, but difficult in execution. Fast ships, small crews, hit-and-run attacks on hegemony supply lines and communication relays. The woman he chose to lead, it was Captain Su Dat Su, was 38 years old. She had been a pirate hunter before joining the fleet, spending years chasing criminals through the asteroid belts of distant systems. She knew how to fight dirty. She knew how to disappear. Your mission is not to win battles, Tay told her. Your mission is to create chaos. Destroy supply ships. Cut communication lines. Make the hegemony look weak. Sue smiled. It was not a nice smile. Understood, Admiral. Her fleet was small. 20 fast cruisers with the best crews in the fleet. They painted their ships black and gave them names that promised death, shadow, silence, venom. Ghost. They struck the first target within a week. It was a supply station near the border of hegemony space. 15 transport ships were docked there, loaded with food and weapons for the punitive fleet. Sue's ships appeared without warning, destroyed the transports in 12 minutes, and vanished before the defense forces could respond. A week later, she hit a communication relay, then another supply convoy, then a refueling station. The hegemony sent hunting parties to find her. She destroyed them too. After a month, the enemy had a name for her, the Ghost. They said her ships could not be tracked. They said she appeared from nowhere and disappeared like smoke. Some believed she was not real at all, just a legend created to frighten children. But she was very real, and she was bleeding the hegemony dry. While Sue created chaos outside, something else was happening inside the hegemony, that the 47 species had never been equal partners. The Velthari ruled. The others obeyed. Some species had been paying tribute for thousands of years. Their freedom taken so long ago that they barely remembered what it felt like. Now they were asking questions. If the humans could resist, why could they not? The Thavari were the first to act. They were small creatures, barely a meter tall, with large eyes and gentle hands. For 3,000 years, they had served as scientists for the hegemony. Their inventions powered hegemony ships. Their medicines healed hegemony soldiers. They were valuable, so they were treated slightly better than slaves. But they were still slaves. A Thavari diplomat named Ven secretly contacted Ambassador Yuna. The message was short and dangerous. If anyone found out he had sent it, he would be executed along with his entire family. We want to help, the message said. We are not warriors, but we know the hegemony's secrets, their weaknesses, their plans. We can share this knowledge if you promise us one thing. What do you want? Yuna replied, freedom. It was the beginning of something new. Over the following weeks, more species reached out. The Novari, who had once been great warriors before the hegemony broke them. The Sylph, who could see electromagnetic fields and had been forced to work as living sensors on hegemony ships. The Kralith, who remembered when their people had tried to resist and lost everything. They were afraid. Of course they were afraid. The hegemony had crushed rebellions before. They had made examples. They had committed horrors that the galaxy tried to forget. But fear was not as strong as hope. And for the first time in 10,000 years. There was hope. Admiral Tay received the intelligence reports with growing excitement. Hegemony fleet positions. Supply line schedules. Weakness in their command structure. The Shuvari were giving him weapons more powerful than any gun. They are falling apart, he told Yuna during one of their late-night meetings. The hegemony looks strong, but it is hollow inside. They have ruled through fear for so long that they have forgotten how to inspire loyalty. Now that fear is breaking, how many species have contacted us? Yuna asked. 12. 8 are willing to share intelligence. 3 are considering active resistance. And 1, Tay paused. 1 is offering ships. Yuna straightened. Ships? The Novari. They hid a fleet after their rebellion failed, 400 years ago. 200 warships, buried in an asteroid field. They are old, but they still work. They want to join us. Why now? Why not before? Because before, there was no hope. They would have been throwing their lives away. Now, Tay smiled. Now they see a chance. A real chance to be free. Yuna walked to the window. Outside, Earth turned slowly in the darkness. Blue oceans. Green forests. White clouds. Home. When the hegemony demanded tribute, she said quietly, they thought they were dealing with just another species. Alone, weak, easily crushed, she turned back to face Tay. They did not understand what they were waking up. No, Tay agreed. They did not. Send word to the Novari. Tell them we accept their offer. Contact every species that has reached out to us. Tell them the same thing we told the hegemony. And what is that? Yuna's eyes were hard. We do not bow. We do not break. And now we do not stand alone. Across the galaxy, the message spread. Through secret channels and whispered words. Through stolen data and hidden meetings. The humans were not just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for everyone, and one by one. The chains that had held the galaxy for 10,000 years began to crack. The Velthari, Archon's patience had ended. For 3 months, the humans had humiliated his empire. Captain Su's raids had destroyed over 200 supply ships. 8 species had declared neutrality, refusing to fight against humanity. Whispers of rebellion were spreading through every corner of hegemony space. It had to end. The Archon called every available ship to the heart of the empire. 2,000 warships gathered near the Velthari Gate, the massive structure that connected hegemony space to the rest of the galaxy. It was the largest fleet assembled in 5,000 years. We will crush them, the Archon declared to his admirals. Not just the humans. All of them. Every species that has dared to hope, to dream of freedom. We will remind the galaxy what happens to those who defy us. He did not know that his words were heard by Felvari spies. Within hours, Admiral Tay knew everything. The final battle was coming. Humanity had 800 ships. It was not enough. It would never be. Enough against 2,000. But they were not alone anymore. The Novari brought their hidden fleet. 200 ships, old but deadly, crewed by warriors who had been waiting 4 centuries for this moment. The Sylph contributed 50 sensor ships that could track enemy movements across vast distances. The Kralith sent 100 fighters, small but fast, piloted by soldiers who had nothing left to lose. Other species sent what they could, supplies, medicine, intelligence. Every contribution mattered. The Allied fleet gathered at the edge of hegemony space. Over 1,100 ships facing 2,000. Still outnumbered. Still outgunned. But they were fighting for something the hegemony had forgotten existed. Freedom. Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of his flagship. The humanity's pride. Beside him were the people who had brought them this far. Ambassador Yuna, who had refused the first tribute. General Kang, who commanded the ground forces waiting in reserve. Commander Hana, recovered from her wounds, commanding a new ship called the Indomitable II. Captain Day, now leading his own squadron. Captain Su, the Ghost Admiral, ready for one final hunt. Today, Tay said to his fleet, we end this. Not just for ourselves. For every species that has lived under the hegemony's boot. For every child who was taken for experiments. For every world that was burned to make an example. His voice carried across 1,000 ships. They think we are weak because we are young. They think we will break because we are few. Let us show them what humanity truly is. Let us show them what free people can do. The fleet moved forward. Battle of the Velthari Gate began. It was chaos. From the first moment, 2,000 ships clashed. Against 1,100 in a storm of fire and metal. The darkness of space lit up with explosions. Ships died by the dozen on both sides. The noise of battle filled every communication channel. Captain Sue led the vanguard, her black ships diving into the enemy formation like knives. She targeted command ships, breaking the hegemony's coordination. Behind her, the Novari ships hit the flanks, drawing attention away from the main assault. Commander Hana pushed through the center, her indomitable two carving a path toward the enemy flagship. She remembered Europa. She remembered her crew who had died there. Today, she would honor them. Captain Day coordinated the fleet's movements, his mind racing faster than any computer. He saw patterns in the chaos. He found weaknesses and exploited them. His orders saved hundreds of ships. The battle raged for 9 days. Both sides lost ships constantly. The Allies lost 300 in the first 2 days. The hegemony lost 500. But they had more. They could afford the losses. Or so they thought. On the 5th day, something changed. 3 more species declared for the alliance. Their fleets were small, barely 50 ships combined, but it was enough to shift the momentum. The hegemony was not just fighting humans anymore. They were fighting the galaxy. On the 7th day, the Archon's flagship was damaged. A lucky shot from Commander Hana's ship crippled its shields. The hegemony formation wavered. On the 9th day, Captain Sue made her final run. The Archon's flagship was wounded, but still dangerous. Its weapons could still destroy dozens of ships. Its presence alone kept the hegemony fighting. Sue knew what had to be done. "All ships, cover me," she ordered. "I am going in." Her cruiser, the Ghost, dove toward the flagship. Enemy fire filled the space around her. Her shields failed. Her hull was breached. Fire burned through her corridors. But she did not stop. At the last moment, she activated her escape pod. It shot away from the dying ship just as the Ghost struck the Archon's flagship at full speed. The explosion was visible from across the system. When the light faded, the Archon's flagship was breaking apart. Escape pods were launching. The ancient ruler of the hegemony was fleeing for his life, and the hegemony fleet began to retreat. Captain Day's ship found Sue's escape pod 3 hours later. She was unconscious, but alive. "That woman," Admiral Tay said when he heard the news, "is either the bravest soldier I have ever known, or the craziest." "Both," Commander Hana replied. "Definitely both." The battle was over. The Allies had lost over 400 ships. The hegemony had lost 1,200, including their flagship and their Archon's power. 1 month later, the hegemony dissolved. The 47 species went their separate ways. Some remained hostile to humanity. Some became friends. Most simply wanted to be left alone, to rebuild their worlds and find their own paths. The tribute system ended forever. Ambassador Yuna stood before the first meeting of the new Galactic Assembly. Representatives from dozens of species filled the Great Hall. Former masters and former slaves. Former enemies and new allies. "We did not start this war," Yuna said. "We did not want it. But when the hegemony came to our world and demanded that we bow, we had only one answer." She paused, looking across the assembly. No, the word hung in the air. Freedom is not given. It is taken. It is held. And once you have it, you never let go. Humanity learned this lesson long ago on our own small world, through wars and struggles and sacrifices beyond counting. She stepped forward. We stand here today not as conquerors, not as the new masters of the galaxy. We stand here as equals, as partners, as people who believe that every species deserves the right to choose its own future. Her voice grew stronger. The hegemony ruled through fear. They believed that power came from crushing others beneath their feet. They were wrong. True power comes from standing together. from lifting each other up, from refusing to bow, no matter the cost. She raised her hand. Humanity offers its friendship to every species willing to stand for freedom. We offer our strength to defend those who cannot defend themselves. We offer our hope to those who have forgotten what hope feels like. Her eyes swept the assembly one final time. We will not bow. Not today. Not ever. But we will stand beside anyone willing to stand for themselves. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, the applause began. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. Wars were fought. Peace was made. New species rose while others faded. The challenges never stopped. But whenever someone asked why humanity was respected throughout the stars, the old ones would tell them the story of a young species from a small blue world, the story of how they looked at an empire of 10,000 years and said one word. No. And changed everything.